Hi folks, today we're going to work on graphing parabolas using vertex form. If you'll notice, vertex form is really not much different than the form we use to graph absolute value equations. This form, y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, as I said, is really no different than anything we've used already. One small difference, if you'll remember, the former equation for absolute value is y equals a times the absolute value of x minus h plus k. Here, we're looking at y equals a times x minus h quantity squared plus k. The basics are really no different, where h and k are the vertex. Now with these, we're still drawing the parabolas, which are this curved shape, and the absolute value functions made that perfect V where the lines were straight. But A will still tell us the same types of things, as in, will it open up or down? Will it be skinny or wide? So with all that being the same, there shouldn't be a terrible amount of trouble with this. Here's our first example with y equals 2 times x minus h quantity squared plus 3. So the first thing we want to do is figure out where that vertex is, and our vertex is going to be in the same place at hk. And again, hk is the xy of the vertex. So if you'll notice, this says x minus h, and this is x minus 4. Notice the signs are the exact same, so our x coordinate then will be 4. And again, we look at k. K is 3. It's supposed to be plus k. We have plus 3. The signs are the same. So therefore, k, or the y coordinate of the vertex, will be at 3. So we can go ahead and plot that point right about there at 4, 3. Now, it's just a matter of picking a couple of more points to put into our xy table to plot the points. And keep in mind, we will have that axis of symmetry that will help us out a little bit in this, and that axis of symmetry will run vertical right down through that point. So now just pick whatever x coordinates you would like and see what it gets you. I think one of the points that I would pick here would be either 5 or 3, because it's very close to that line. So we'll go ahead and pick 3 to plug in for x. So now we would have y equals 2 times 3 minus 4 quantity squared plus 3. And let's not forget about our order of operations. So we work inside the parentheses first. And then when we square that negative 1, it winds up being positive. So negative 1 squared is 1, times 2 will be 2, and 2 plus 3 will be 5. So we have a point at 3, 5, which will be right there. And we have our mirror image point there. So we could pick one more point to plug in, but we really don't need to do that. We have the general shape of our graph, and it should kind of make sense because A is a positive 2, which means it's going to open up, and it's going to be a little more severe of an uprise than it would be if it was a 1. Here's another quick example we can do. Again, we're looking at h and k first to figure out where we start this graph, where our vertex is going to land. So this one, remember, is x minus h, but this one is a plus 2 this time. So our vertex, the x-coordinate, will land at negative 2. The signs do not match. And then our y-coordinate, or k, again, plus k, but this says minus 5, so our signs don't match again. So the y-coordinate will be at negative 5. So we can plot the vertex at negative 2, negative 5. And keep in mind, once again, that also gives us that axis of symmetry that we can drop down through the middle of that so that we can do our mirror images. So again, we pick one more point to plug in. I would highly recommend staying as close to that axis of symmetry as possible, just so you can stay on the graph. Sometimes if you pick too far away, you'll wind up getting off the graph. So I'm going to go ahead and pick 0 because I think it's going to be fairly easy to work with. It's still fairly close to the graph. So we plug 0 in for x, so we have y equals -1/4 times 0 plus 2 squared minus 5. Now keep in mind, we know this graph is going to open down because a is negative. So we know the graph is going to open down, and we also know that since it's between 0 and -1, that it's going to be kind of a wide graph. So we can go ahead and do the math on that and make sure that we're correct. So we have -1/4 times 2 squared minus 5. So 2 squared will be 4, and then 4 times -1/4 will be -1. And so we have -1 minus 5, which would be -6. So we can plot that point at 0, -6, which will be here, and we have the mirror image here. So now we have a pretty good idea of how that graph is going to open. It's going to open a little bit wider and down, and that's how our graph is going to look. This graph here is left blank intentionally. You can give it a go, see what you come up with, and we can go over it in class the next time we meet. Okay, here's your assignment, page 249, numbers 3 to 11 odd, 43 to 44, 51 to 52, and number 54. We will see you in class.